Hello, everybody, and welcome back to NYthespirit.com on video. So, how many years have I known this next guy? I don't think in all those 37,000 years that I've ever interviewed him. And what a pleasure it is to welcome Gord Deppe.
Finally.
Did I get your name right?
Deppe.
I know, I just
That
did
sounds
it.
a bit more Hollywood.
I
Deppe.
did it on purpose, just to see. I wanted to see if you'd jump up
Maybe
at
in
me.
Italy they would call me Deppe.
So, Gordon Deppe, how's things?
Great, excellent. The 80s are alive and kicking.
We were just, before we turned on the cameras, we were just talking about Boy George.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Everybody is out there again. You know, whether it's the Spoons or Culture Club or every 80s band you can think of is touring. So it's kind of like every time we go to a concert, it's kind of like a little family reunion or getting back together after many years.
I just read an article in Bloomberg yesterday. Depeche Mode are selling more tickets than Ed Sheeran, Justin Bieber, and a third person I can't remember.
I love it. That's brilliant.
Isn't that something? Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. That's the proof.
Well, I kept thinking when the retro thing started, it started about 95, just a tiny bit. I kept thinking, it's going to die out, it's going to die out. It just kept going in little ways, up and down. I thought it was just a nostalgia thing, but it's not. It's here to stay forever.
I think, it's nostalgia if only old people follow it.
Yeah, you're right.
But young people are getting in on the game.
I agree.
Big time.
I think it's just the genre of music that's going to stay, like hip hop or R&B or heavy metal. 80s.
Think about back then, around 81, 82, when it was just starting, and everybody was literally feeling their way along because there was no pattern. Yeah. If you weren't like heavy metal or something, there was no road to travel.
But it was an exciting time because before that, Sandy and I, we were sort of prog rock nerds, I never thought in a million years we'd get a song on the radio. But when the so-called new wave started, hey, anything's possible because all these different styles were getting a shot or combining or,
Well, I don't know that anything is possible. You have to have some kind of something in there that says, love me. Yeah. Something in there that says, bingo, my ears are on fire. And but in terms of what you're saying about how everybody's in on it, when the internet came along, it just opened up a box that nobody had ever seen before. And everything jumped out. And it saw people to realize that there was more to life than the top 40.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I started more, not that anybody could make it, but the number of different styles. Like you walk down Queen Street now, it's kind of the same band in every bar, same kind of droney thing. But back then, you go to the Bamboo and it'd be a ska band. You go to the Horseshoe, it'd be a punk band, and the Rivoli would be a techno band. And you get a whole musical education walking down that street one Friday night. It was a very exciting time.
Let's go back to that exciting time. Let's go back to Burlington, Ontario.
Yeah.
Tell me how it all came together.
Well, when we started out in Burlington, Ontario, there was nothing else except, I think it was the second Tim Hortons in Canada, and the Teen Tour Band, which was a marching band. They won many worldwide things. So that was it. Now, of course, you have Walk Off the Earth and Finger 11, all those sort of things. But we were a bunch of kids out of high school.
And what brought it all together?
Well, Sandy and I had bands before the Spoons, like I said, progressive rock. Yes. We liked Genesis, King Crimson kind of things. And when New Wave hit, we thought, we can do this. Just because we had some of those elements. We had the synthesizer.
At this point, it's just the two of you.
Yeah, we had the synthesizer. Sandy had some bass pedals even, which ended up, they're more sort of from the prog rock days, but they ended up being used on Nova Heart. So all the tools were there and the music was shifting. We thought, we could do this. And we met a couple other guys in our high school and not thinking it would go anywhere.
And those other guys were?
Well, Derek Ross.
Yes.
We had a different keyboard player for a while named Brett Wickens for the first year. And then he moved to England, and then Rob Proust from a different high school, 15-year-old kid, who just answered an ad in the paper. I just put an ad in the Hamilton Spectator. We need a keyboard player. And he's the only kid that replied.
Are you serious?
Because we're nobody. It's not like
I
Spoons are
know,
looking for a keyboard player.
Still.
Yeah.
What's really funny is when you said another keyboard from another high school.
It was competitive back then, Yeah.
And so you just practiced in the basement, or you gigged around the high school? What happened?
My dad had this little cottage where he had not really cottage, his office was, but backed onto the botanical gardens in Hamilton, Burlington area, so we called it the cottage. And he gave us a little room upstairs. He actually worked downstairs. He's, on his computer, and we would bash away. I'm sure it was horrible for him. There was some really strange stuff we did, but then we started, getting a little bit more creative. And I remember songs like, I remember you commenting on this on the radio. It was a song called "Only for Athletes." It was off the first album called Stick Figure Neighborhood. This is before anybody else really played us. But I remember you played it. I think it was CFNY, and you going, "Can you believe these guys are from Burlington, Ontario?" And that was probably the first bit of encouragement that we got. Because up to that point, we were thinking, what are we doing? We're just trying things. And I mean, you gave us a little bit of a kick there saying, yeah, maybe we're onto something here.
So tell me how the hours leading up to Nova Heart, what was that like? How did that come to be?
Well, we did the Stick Figure Neighborhood album. It was very raw and more Talking Heads kind of vibe. I didn't even really sing yet. I was sort of yelling and making noises and things.
Oh, you mean like now?
Yeah. That's because I'm tired and I want to go home. No, it's I saw some bands and I thought we can do that, like Simple Minds, Orchestral Maneuvers.
Yes.
A bit more grand and lush. And said, you know what, we don't have to be this sort of quirky. It's kind of like what Japan went. Remember before Japan became like Roxy Music, where they were more raw and punky, and all of a sudden it became sophisticated. Yes. I thought we could do that. And I went and saw Orchestral Maneuvers in the dark in a tiny little place in Hamilton called Bannisters, I think it was called. A tiny little bar. A band called Our Daughter's Wedding was opening, another electro band from the States, I think. And that 1 hour, I had it all worked out. I said, this is what I want to do. This is, that was the kickstart. Next day I went home, I borrowed Rob's keyboard, and the first thing I wrote was, da-da-da.
Really?
And Rob went, that is so stupid and simple, I would never have thought of it. It's okay. There you go.
And then you took that into the studio.
Yeah, and a couple other songs I wrote that morning that inspired morning after the OMD concert, and there.
Well, I mean, you've had some incredible songs. I ask only about Nova Heart because it was really the breakthrough. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was.
It was the one that everybody went, holy shit, what's this? Yeah.
They still do sometimes. It was too early. It was too late for it. It doesn't have a time really. It's just sort of odd and different. When that was on the top 10, I won't mention what charts or whatever, but it was on the same, like the Chum album chart, which was big back then. Yeah. It was on the top 10 with Queen, Led Zeppelin, and The Who. How does that happen? It doesn't even fit.
It happens because it's good.
Yeah, I guess. I hope.
and by the way, folks, if you haven't heard what year was that? 2 years ago you put out the re-release with the remixes?
Oh, yes, yeah.
I don't know, is it still available?
Oh, yeah, it's a Singularity mix.
If you guys haven't, I know you've heard it on my shows because I can't stay away from it. And still, after all these number of years, find it somewhere because it's a treasure. It's just remixes of Nova Heart, and it's delicious.
And then that one that you're talking about, the Singularity mix, it's not even remixed. We completely recorded it from scratch. It's not a shred of the original. It's a different tempo. I sing it differently. And at first we thought, oh, our fans are going to hate this. Maybe the kids don't like it. No.
Dark Before Dawn, is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's when Sandy sings. She does one as well.
Oh, that's a beautiful.
That's a good one too, isn't it?
That's a beautiful mix.
I'm glad you're playing it.
I mean, for a while I couldn't stay away from it, and the listeners were saying, "Why don't you play something else from the damned album?"
I'm not complaining.
So way back then, I know you toured with Culture Club, namely Boy George.
Do you remember you were there the morning we left on that tour?
Do you know the story?
No.
You all arrived at
It was a park.
In some park somewhere near Hamilton?
Yeah, it was right beside the building where we lived, LaSalle Park, right on the Hamilton Harbor.
And your big tour bus was there, and there was just the group and the parents, and myself and my friend Eddie, and this guy kept walked by, and I thought, that's the drummer. And then 5 minutes later, he walked by, and he'd have changed his clothes. And I kept waving. He wasn't waving back or anything. And then a few minutes later, walked by again, and he changed his clothes. Now, I didn't realize that he was one of three.
Oh, now it makes, he's a triplet, yes.
And so I kept seeing these guys. I thought, why is Derek changing his clothes every 2 minutes?
Oh, that's funny.
And then he came over, and I asked him, And he laughed his ass off.
Well, we used to fool people. Remember the old days of playing the Forum at Ontario Place, which was fun. We usually brought them out during the encore because nobody knew really, except our dear friends. But for the encore, all three dressed the same would come out with drumsticks and do a big percussion solo.
That's very funny. So I know you're still touring with the Spoons. I know you're still. That's an interesting question. I said the Spoons, didn't I?
People say it. That some people are very serious about it. I don't really care, but I think when you use it in a sentence, here nobody ever goes, "Here are spoons." They usually go, "Here are the spoons." Yeah. But when you see it on an album cover, it just says spoons. So.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. So anyway, you did that. You had tremendous success. You're still touring. I know you are. You're still selling out gigs. You still loving it?
Just as much. And talking about Nova Heart, there's certain songs people have asked me. I never ever get tired of those. It's not like, oh, here we go again.
So what would those 3 songs be?
That I never get tired of?
Yes.
Nova Heart, Arias and Symphonies. Yes. Because it's got more than 3 chords. That's a clever one. You know what one I really enjoy? It's from the first album from our quirky years. Is Red Light. Remember that one?
Yes, I do, but I haven't played it in a long time.
Oh, and the reaction we get. We even start throwing it to summer festivals. We have like families and things, right? But they love it. They think it's like intermission or like sci-fi or something. Yeah.
And you still love it.
Yeah.
You still loving being on that stage.
Yeah, I do.
And you have 2 new members.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. People think, where are Rob and Derek? But they were only with us for the first 6 years.
Yes.
But we have had a couple of other people. Remember that movie Spinal Tap where the drummers get?
I know.
That's the drummers come and go. And we have the same problem with keyboard players. Many keyboard players. Our latest keyboard player is Casey MQ. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. So he goes under MQ. It's a hyphenated.
Is the Casey like as in CASEY?
Yep.
MQ is
Minerka.
Does he know you can't pronounce his
No,
name?
he doesn't either. He never uses it ever. No, I can't. If I see it in front of me. And then Chris McNeil on the drums.
Didn't I meet them at some club somewhere?
I'm sure you did, yeah.
Yeah. So now I hear there's a little rumor traveling about, and I don't know what to make of it. I've dreamt about it. I've pondered it, and so I'm going to ask you if it's true.
Uh-oh.
Are you going to get one of those funny haircuts and call yourself a flock of seagulls?
I would if the singer still had that hair, but he shaved his head right to the scalp now, yeah.
You are joining them, though,
I'm a member of Flock of Seagulls now, too, so I'm a spoon and a seagull. And we can make both work, Sandy was a little worried at first, but now I can make both work.
So how many of the original flocks? I can't remember his name.
Mike Score. Yeah, so he's the only original member. The same thing, the very original band was only with them for the first 6 years. I don't know this. But his new bass player, Pondo, I don't even remember his last name, used to be with Gene Loves Jezebel. Remember those guys?
Okay, I do indeed.
Okay. And the drummer used to be with Animotion. So 80s people, Wow. And they thought, well, let's put a spoon in here. And
oh my God! And do they tour a lot?
More than
So are you going to be on the road a lot?
No, but they don't do big, long runs. We'll fly out and do a couple of things, go home again. He doesn't like to travel that much, but they're good, juicy gigs and for big 80s festival type things, and that's one song of theirs gets so much.
Do you mean Iran? Yeah.
I mean, it was even on La La Land, and the Space Age Love Song, which is my favorite Flock song, is in the new Spider-Man movie. So they have a lot of legs. I mean,
Iran got so heavily played, even up till now, that I stay away from it.
Oh, me too, actually. that not again.
It's almost burned out. Okay, it is burned out.
But there are a lot of other good songs.
They have some very good songs.
Wishing
is another one I like.
Transfer Affection, and a lot of good stuff.
So now you're a spoon. You've always been a spoon. How in the world did you ever come up with the name Spoon?
Oh, I regretted that so long because our music ended up being more serious than that, right? But if you think of the early years, we were quirky and weird, and a lot of bands were using objects as names. Mm-hmm. Remember Martha and the Muffins, the Cars. There was a band in Toronto called the Dishes. Remember them?
Yes, I do.
So we thought, let's have something really suburban.
So it didn't have anything to do with laying against each other?
No.
Oh, too bad.
No, it didn't. But I've heard every line in the book.
Yeah, well, I've used that myself.
Well, the best I've heard is probably you've heard this one. That somebody said, on some posts, they talk back and forth. Do you want to go to a Spoons concert? They're playing in town. It says, no, I'm not going because I've heard spooning leads to forking.
That's really bad, by the way. So your Spoon and your Seagull. What's next?
Well, I had a book out. I still have a book out. I'm an author. Got the tweed jacket and the pipe, and I'm working on new songs. So a new record should be out in February with the Spoons.
Tell me quickly about the new album.
Oh, well, I kind of look at each album as almost like a season. Mm-hmm. Like when we started out, I thought the Arias album was kind of a wintry album. It was sort of dark and brooding. And then we worked with Niall and did Talkback and Tonalize, and it was more summery and fun, And then we did Bridges, a bit more like a fall record. So this is going to be another summer record. It's very upbeat, fun, I think this one song that you know now even has doot doots in it. Mm-hmm. And that was not on purpose. It just lent itself to that because the same happy.
And that comes out?
I'm aiming for middle February.
You be sure to let us know.
Yes.
It's very difficult to interview you for only one reason. We've just known each other way too long.
Yes. We already know everything.
Yeah, and so I sort of stammer off into some avenue where it's more like you and I just having fun.
That's good though, because you know all those details, right?
Andy, something else? Gordon Deppe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A spoon and a flock. The flock is with a spoon.
Oh.
I'm never gonna fall.